This is going to be a tutorial for the 2-6 boss fight. You want to make sure you play this fight in a very specific way so that the boss will actually work with you. Before we get started, I want to talk about how you want to practice this level. So to be able to give yourself the swords you would get normally from any percent, you would normally get swords from room 3. You want to use Cheat Engine. So you can download that from the Google Drive link in the setup guide. And what you want to do is you want to go into that cheat table, and for P1 and P2 specifically, you want to set a hotkey to give yourself swords. If you need help doing that, check the table extras in the bottom right of Cheat Engine for the guide on how to set that hotkey. But you want to set that hotkey for player 1 and player 2. And then you want player 2 as Willy and player 1 as Indy. And then you want to drop out Willy. And then when you load the room here, in 90%, Indy will always die here. So what you're going to do is you're going to load the room and give yourself swords. And sometimes the room will load like this. That's just a brick bench thing. If you load the room again, it'll be back to this. So you want to have P2 dropped out as Willy, load the room, hit your sword hotkey, drop in and swap. And so in any percent, what you'll do is you'll just drop in and swap to short round. That's what it'll look like there. You want to drop in and swap. So what you're doing is you're loading the room, hitting your sword hotkey, drop in, swap. So this is what the boss fight looks like. Let me go through that real quick. So we're getting these guys, and then double sword throw here. Then we're getting this sword. That sword throw. Then we're getting this sword. And then this sword throw. And that's the whole boss fight. So the main important thing to remember for this boss fight is you always want Mola Ram to approach you. So I'll go over that in a second, but let me first go over what I'm doing when I'm getting these guys. So I'm dropping and swapping, then you pick 3. You want to pick one as Indy. That was kind of a bad example. So you want to kill one of these guys as Indy, and then 3 of them as short round. Because that'll just let you get one as Indy, and then that's about as much time for Indy that you have. So after that, I'm always going to double jump roll as Indy, and then start moving back as short round. The reason I do this is because if you've got your sword out for too long as Indy, he'll put it away by himself, which can mess you up. Like I said before, you want Mola Ram to approach you, so I'm moving back a short round so Mola Ram can approach me. And then, like here-ish is where you want to be. You're going to spam attack as short round, and then be ready as Indy to go for the hit. So one thing you want to be aware of when Mola Ram is coming to hit you is you do not want to be too close as any other player. So here I'm intentionally standing close because this can mess up your his pathing sometimes. It's very important that you wait, like you don't get too close too early. Once he's in the attack animation, like where he's stunned, you can move up no problem. But if you move up too early, then it can cause him to not get the stun, which will lose you time. As you saw in the example before, I went for the hit pretty quickly, but you can be much more safe with it. You realistically just need to like get the hit after you see the animation starting. So then you can go in for the hit. And then you're going to swap to Willy. One thing to be aware of is you do not want to be hitting Mola Ram as someone with a sword. Because then you'll see here, he can still hit me when I can get killed like that, which is bad. So you want to make sure for this first cycle, you're going as short round. So after you get the first hit on Mola Ram, what you want to do is you want to position in some kind of specific ways in order to get the sword throws, like the double. But as long as you kind of know where to position and what angles to hold, it's really easy. So I'll show that right here. So here, the first thing you want to do is you want to attack to bring the swords out on both players. You don't want to hit B because then you don't have to, like if you hit attack, you don't have to worry about who's already holding a sword and who might throw a sword. And then as P2 Willy, you're gonna go over to here-ish and you're gonna tap up left. So like if you're standing here and you tap up left and you're facing up left, then it'll just work. Like you'll get the sword target. So standing here, tap up left. You can be a little bit further up. If you're too far up, you have to tap up, but like you don't necessarily want to be up there. It kind of just depends. But with P2 keyboard, this is how you want to do it. Tap up like that. And so for P1, you kind of want to position in this like similar way, but you want to tap like down leftish as on the stick. So that way you're facing in a good range that'll give you the sword targeting. So attack and get in positions, readjust if you need, and then you'll double throw the swords. So 2 fail states to be aware of is you don't want to accidentally do the B button attack on like short round or something, which would look like this. If I can actually get it. You don't want to do that. And another fail state is if your sword flies through an enemy and kills them while it's heading towards the grapple, then you'll blink, which is not what you want. Something else to be aware of when you're lining up for the sword throws is if you wait too long, like I'm just standing here, you see they put their swords away. So when you're lining up for the sword throws, you get in position, you don't want to wait too long, because here, if one of them puts their sword away and then I go and throw, like if only one person has a sword out, only one sword is going to be thrown. So you don't necessarily have to rush too much, but be aware of like, okay, if I'm not fast enough, then my swords are going to be put away. And if you just attack once as both players, that'll fix everything. Like now your put away timer's reset. I don't know how long exactly it is. You do like also if you move, if you're moving, the swords won't be put away. I don't necessarily know how exactly it works, but you just want to be aware. Don't take too long to throw, but don't feel like you didn't have not enough time. So the next thing I want to go over is how you're going to want to approach the guys that spawn after you do the sword throw. So we do the double throw here, and then you can kind of take your time a little bit setting this up, since you're bottlenecked by these guys spawning and dropping anyway. There's 2 important things here. One, you want to kill these guys up here off of the bridge, like towards the ground. That way, when their swords spawn, they won't accidentally clip through the floor, because sometimes the swords will clip through the bridge. So you want to kill them over here. The other thing is, if you've got a guy with a sword, you don't want to attack them with him, because if you see that sword on the ground, if I attack it as a sword guy, then it just deletes. Like you see, it just deleted. So if you ever don't get a sword drop, it's usually one of those things that happen. So after the double sword throw, what I'll do is I'll move up with both players, and I'm just going to start spamming attack. You want to ideally get the sword as P1, just because it's much easier to get the sword targets in. So ideally, you spam attack, you grab the sword as P1, and then you don't always have to do this, but oftentimes it's easier to just swap to short round as P2, since he's not going to be in an attack animation most likely, because you were attacking with Willy. And then I'm going to start moving towards Mola Ram. And then when he gets close, I'm going to start spamming attack. And while this is happening, I'm moving P1 over. One thing to note, which we kind of talked about earlier, if you get too close to Mola Ram, his AI might break because you're in the way. So what I like to do here is during this attack, I'm going to jump when I get close to him. That seems to help not break his AI. You'll jump over him, and then you'll swap to P2 and get the hit in with P2. And then you're going to line up the sword and throw it as P1. That's the more risky method. The more safe version of this is you grab the sword and then you just wait for him to get in the animation. You hit him as P1. Then you don't have to worry about pathing accidentally breaking or anything like that. So then after that, when you're lining up the sword, you can throw it anywhere from like past the halfway point in the bridge. As long as you're facing like upright or downright, then it'll just work. And so like from here, I can throw it, and even though it's not targeted, I'm confident it's going to work. You just need to be making sure you're facing the right angle. If you're scared, you can run up closer and see the target, which is fine. It's not actually too big of a deal to do that. We'll throw the sword, and then you want to immediately run this way. So here, I get the throw in, then I'm immediately running this way because these guys are going to spawn over here. You want to get these guys, grab the sword as P1, and do the exact same thing. And then same kind of deal for the targeting. That time I missed because I was targeting wrong, I guess. But like if I had a sword and I threw it like this, it just works. So if you miss a double sword throw, there's a few ways you can back it up. There's a few different cases. You kind of just want to figure it out as you go a lot of the time. Like see if you can still fit in a double sword throw where it would be fast. So say, okay, I only have one sword. I only ended up throwing one. Here I have the chance to go for another double sword throw. So I'll set it up maybe like this time. And there, I just barely got that off actually. That was kind of rare to happen. You don't want him to put his sword away, obviously. But there, I was able to hit one of the cycle skips, and then I get a sword. And then I'm not really losing that much time from that. That was a little strange as well. And then now you're just able to finish the boss fight like normal. So another case you might find is you end up missing one of the swords and hitting one of the swords. So you're left with 0 swords. So how you want to play that, it's kind of just like the rest of the boss fight. Say, okay, I miss one of my swords, then I hit one of them. So this kind of just adds an extra cycle to what you were doing. You can grab the sword here, and you just throw it here, and then you're going to keep going. It's not worth trying to go for another cycle skip if you don't have any swords left. Another case that might happen that isn't necessarily related to missing a sword throw is you mess up his pathing somewhere. So like if you mess it up here at the start, like say I messed up his pathing and I didn't get the hit off. So next time he jumps, he's going to jump to the other side. So you want to be ready to read that. These guys you just want to kill, and then you need to make it over to the middle of the bridge. There I wasn't really ready, but it's still going to work out for me here. It might be better to leave short round or whoever doesn't have the sword on the bridge and go attack with both swords over here. But then from there, you can kind of just play the boss fight normally. One more thing that should be known about this boss fight is if I have something messed up here, like there, short round died. So what you want to do, if short round dies, or you're not positioned right, or you think it's gonna, like he's gonna jump away without getting the animation, is you just want to spam attack him as much as you can, because there's like a 1-frame window where you can still get a hit. So you might as well go for it. So I don't think I'm gonna be able to have a clip here with it, but like in the case that something went terribly wrong, just spam attack him and hope, because you still might be able to get the hit, which would unlock the ropes. So now I want to go over how you should play this if you only have one sword. So if you get here with only one sword from room 3, how you're going to play this is going to be a little different. So this part you want to play like normal. And then here, you want to go over here and get this sword as player 2 or whoever. And then now you have 2 swords again. So what you want to do now is you want to wait for those guys to spawn. And then after they spawn, you want to do the cycle skip. Now you have this sword. So what you're able to do is you're able to play this part like normal. And then you can wait for these guys to spawn. And then you can do a cycle skip. So now the swords are unlocked and you have 2 swords. And you can just... that was a little awkward, but you can end the fight like that. Alternatively, you could have just ran over here, thrown the sword, and played it like normal. I don't necessarily know which is better, but this one kind of feels faster, especially if you're fumbling a little bit trying to get to the double sword throw.